Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Kim Miller begins now.
Good evening. First tonight, an explosive letter penned by Launceston's emergency department doctors has turned into a bitter political spat. The Premier is accusing Labor of having a hand in the letter, which detailed a patient dying in a waiting room.
Yesterday, a letter by Launceston doctors revealed the bed block paralysing the hospital's emergency department. But today, the Premier questioned if it had a co-author.
I think it was right and proper to ask the opposition what role they played in this.
The explosive letter included details of a person who died in the waiting room. Labor says it had nothing to do with the correspondence, calling the Premier's claim a slur against those who wrote it.
Premier Gutwein should apologise to doctors who he's accused of not even writing the letter that we know they wrote and have sent in desperation to health officials.
Hospital bosses and the state's chief medical officer met with worried registrars today. The Tasmanian Health Service says a patient flow team has also been permanently added.
Certainly our members have been raising these concerns since 2018, and it's time that we started to see solutions put up rather than continuing arguing about what is now one of the worst performing emergency departments in the country.
I know that those challenges remain and in part have actually been exacerbated by COVID.
The letter clearly caught the government off guard, leaving the Premier furious.
Gotcha moment. Run with a gotcha moment. Gotcha moments, gotcha moments. And well, again, what were you doing with it before we got it?
Meanwhile, the Planning Minister is threatening to kill off his own major projects bill. Labor is looking to amend it, and the Greens aren't holding back either. Both are calling for political donations by developers to be disclosed. But Roger Yanch isn't budging.
If this bill was amended in that way, we would not let it proceed.
Sean McComish, 7 Tasmania News.
Volunteers at a community hall more than a century old have been left to pick up the pieces after out-of-control revellers caused tens of thousands of dollars damage. Locals say as many as 500 people attended the party last weekend, with concerns it broke COVID-19 restrictions.
Party mode mid-pandemic. Revellers cram into the Memorial Hall at Upper Blessington, dancing and seemingly ignoring social distancing to celebrate a 20th. Looking to have a big razz for my birthday, a Facebook invitation says. Just how big? A hall committee spokesman says there were 500 people. Many were gate crashers.
You don't allow your information to be widespread, because once it's widespread, you don't know what's going to happen.
But it's this that has volunteers and the council seeing red. Toilets destroyed, holes in walls and doors, and broken glass scattered all over the once family-friendly site. The night of carnage comes with a damage bill of close to $20,000. It's not yet a police matter, but the Hall Committee intend to report it.
When they damage in council property, they are damaging ratepayers' property, and that's obviously something that the ratepayers ultimately have to pay for.
It looms as a very expensive birthday party for the organiser, who could be forced to pay up. But it's the event's COVID compliance which raises a number of questions, with current government restrictions allowing up to 250 people in indoor premises. We contacted multiple government agencies who today danced around who's responsible. Garth Burley, 7 Tasmania News.
Tasmanian authorities are tonight issuing strong warnings against a heart-wrenching and growing online trend. Puppies have become the subject of internet scams, which in recent months have duped multiple local families looking for a four-legged friend.
These furry family companions, the centre of a heartless and growing trend, puppy scamming.
Tasmania Police are concerned about the number of Tasmanian victims who have fallen victim and lost substantial amounts of money to the scam.
This year alone, 12 locals have bought pets online that don't exist. $40,000 lost to overseas scammers setting up fake websites or online ads, pretending to sell sought-after breeds.
There's been about a 50% increase in these types of scams since the start of the year, probably partly due to the pandemic and partly due to the fact that people have more time on their hands whilst being at home.
The most common breeds, cavoodles, shih tzus and French bulldogs. Police now urging potential buyers not to roll over when dealing with dodgy breeders.
Do your research on the breeder, so do a Google search on the exact wording of the ad. The other warning bell to look for is when they ask for payment via Western Union or any money transfer service.
Being smart and not letting your heart rule your head. As you wouldn't go and buy a house without looking at it, you wouldn't go and buy a car without looking at it.
With demand for puppies rising and breeders few and far between, ripped-off buyers are also contacting the RSPCA. Now it wants solutions.
Formal registration of pet breeders so that we can be sure that when people are buying something off somebody on the internet, particularly locally, that it is a registered breeder.
For those looking for a cuddly friend who want to avoid a rough experience, she had this advice.
Our rule of thumb is adopt, not shop.
Josh Duggan, 7 Tasmania News.
Experts have warned businesses in Launceston are expected to be hardest hit when JobKeeper rates are slashed at the end of September. Researchers from the McKell Institute have revealed the change will impact the entire state, but especially the 1,700 Launceston businesses who stand to have their payment cut. Also on the list of most impacted, Devonport, Tranmere, Kingston and Burnie.
JobKeeper has been an essential lifeline for businesses all across the state in all sorts of industries. So it makes sense that we're going to see a pretty dispersed impact once the JobKeeper payment winds down at the end of the month.
The coronavirus payments will fall to $1,200 a fortnight at the end of the month. A leading economist has suggested new taxes be introduced in Tasmania to help the state recover from the coronavirus pandemic. In a report by the Australia Institute, Saul Eslake called for the return of controversial estate duties, replacement of stamp duty and lower payroll tax. He says the changes will help the country move out of recession.
To reform Tasmania's tax system in a way that would make it both fairer and more efficient and capable of meeting the revenue needs we're likely to have in the post-COVID world.
We need to lean into every lever that we've got and make sure that every tool that we have provides the best economic and equitable outcome, and tax has got to be a part of that.
The state government says it's not currently considering any tax reforms. Tasmania's largest private sector employer, Federal Group, is hinting at more disruption for workers as its interests are hit hard by the pandemic. Today, though, was a brief splash of optimism for the business as its landmark property Sapphire marked its 10th anniversary.
Most of us will never see for ourselves Tasmania's most exclusive and expensive resort. Staying at Sapphire, overlooking the hazards, will set you back more than $2,000 per night. Federal Group says it needs every cent at a time like this.
Without the support of JobKeeper and programs such as that, the business would be in significant dire straits.
Making a rare media appearance, Federal Group's Managing Director Greg Farrell expects the business to report its worst results in 20 years. He voiced a commitment to keep as many jobs as possible, but
some roles will change and some roles have changed because obviously we've got many parts of the business which are still not open. So we've got convention centres that could be bowling alleys. We've got restaurants that are ghost towns.
Ironically, Sapphire opened in the midst of another economic meltdown, the global financial crisis. The Sapphire gamble paid off, but a sister project at Port Arthur remains mothballed for now.
Market testing of Sapphire type guests, which the product we designed tested very poorly. And so we've had to now reconsider what in fact is the best way to optimise that site.
Also delayed, sweeping reforms to the gaming industry, which will effectively break up Federal Group's stranglehold on pokies. Mr Farrell says Federal's had no heads up on what the new policy will be.
The government has been 100% fixated on COVID, as have we.
The devil will be in the detail. Tom Johnson, 7 Tasmania News.
Meanwhile, a new hotel in Hobart has opened its doors for a preview ahead of opening. The 142-room Vibe Hotel on Argyle Street promises to deliver a truly Tasmanian experience to both locals and tourists. And while the owners say the global pandemic has changed plans, they're now confident the state's tourism sector can recover.
What we have here in Tassie and how keen people are to get people back into the state. I'm pretty confident we'll do well.
I'm just looking forward to a time when we can move on and Tasmanians can travel freely in and out of the state, and visitors from Australia especially can come down.
The hotel will open its doors in November. A new study has found a common spice may help reduce chronic pain in arthritic knees. Researchers at the University of Tasmania gave a synthetic extract from turmeric to patients over 12 weeks and found they suffered significantly less knee pain from osteoarthritis.
My plan is to look in future is to look at the long-term effects. That means at least for 2 years.
The researchers say the dose they used differs from what's in food, so simply eating a curry with turmeric may not provide pain relief. Heartbroken Festivale organisers say they've been left with little choice but to cancel next year's event. Uncertainty over restrictions, crowd numbers and travel are being blamed for the decision, with the committee exhausting all options to keep the event alive in its current form.
It was one of the few festivals Tasmania saw this year. Festivale brought thousands to Launceston City Park, and it was easy to see why. But with no idea how they'll manage it amid COVID uncertainty, today organisers had to bite the bullet.
The time has come to make the decision that with the restrictions due to COVID and not being able to guarantee what February will look like, that we've got no option other than to cancel Festivale 2021 as we know it.
Hopes are alive of a smaller replacement event.
Different location, different name, it will still have a focus on great Tasmanian produce and beverages, and we'll have some entertainment as well, but it will be a very different format.
They're not the only ones thinking differently. While Queenstown's Unconformity Festival is also scrapped for 2020, it's finding a new home online.
UNTV is delivering a whole bunch of TV channel content that's squarely about Queenstown and Western Tasmania, so that format we think should work really well for audiences.
Shows and performances will be streamed only once. At the same time the festival would have taken place, Saturday, October 17 from 4 p.m.
We tried to design something that you can, get involved in no matter what your, COVID restrictions are.
Sean McComish, 7 Tasmania News.
Lauderdale skipper Josh McGuinness says his side's headline-grabbing win over Launceston was the club's best performance in recent years. The Southern Bombers booted 10 unanswered goals on their way to a shock 63-point win. McGuinness still thinks North Launceston is the best team in the league, but says the side is no longer invincible.
I don't think they're going probably as well as they have been in the previous years, probably because of all the time off everyone had, and I think you see there's no real consistent side in the league at the moment. So that's probably got a bit to do with it. I do think they're the best team in the league at the moment though, yeah.
After leaving Richmond Oval with a narrow win, North Launceston now has a serious test on its hands against its biggest rival in recent years.
And their forwards look really good. Harry Richmond had probably his best game for Lauderdale since moving from Clarence. So, they're going to be up and about. They were down the week before against Clarence, so hopefully we get them on the down week and not the upward week.
Tom Bennett and Mark Walsh will miss up to 3 weeks after sustaining injuries on the weekend. And a slow pacemaker may have cost Stuart McSwain an Australian record. McSwain was stuck at a relative snail's pace during the 1500 metres in Croatia. He took matters into his own hands, bursting at the halfway point to break away from the field. McSwain had a paddock to himself at the finish, but his time was just over a second behind the Aussie record held by Ryan Gregson. So perhaps a little bit unlucky there, Kim.
Yeah, I love the paddock to himself. He's used to that on King Island, isn't he? Thanks very much, Tom.
Good evening. Bushy Park, our high today with 19 degrees. Hobart 18, Launceston and Burnie 15, Devonport a top of 14. Temperatures below average over the north and west, but slightly above elsewhere. Friendly Beaches 18, Flinders Island and Grove 17, Smithton and St Helens 16, 14 for Low Head, 13 the high for Strawn. Scattered showers resulted from the cloud that streamed over from the northwest during the day today. Low cloud over Western Victoria is ahead of a large area of higher cloud over the Bight, northern New South Wales and parts of Queensland and a bit of the Territory also with some cloud cover. Tomorrow a cold front crosses the state in the morning. Ahead of the high, a large portion of Central Australia covered by troughs and several low centres. Southerly winds at the outset at 15 to 25 knots and up to 30 knots up the east coast. They'll tend easterly over the north late morning and ease over the state during the afternoon. A strong wind warning has been issued in the northeast, including Flinders Island down to Wineglass Bay. Hobart an early shower, 13 the top. Cygnet a morning shower as well, 12 the high, 13 for New Norfolk. Launceston looking at 15 degrees and partly cloudy. Same for Devonport, just 12 for Campbelltown with a light early shower. Burnie 15 and partly cloudy, an early shower for Strawn, 13 the maximum, 15 for Smithton. St Helens tomorrow, 13 the high, possible light shower. Swansea the same and 13 the top for Fingal. On Friday, fine with light winds after widespread morning frost. Mainly fine on Saturday, a shower however over the north and northeast, while on Sunday mainly fine over the south and southeast, a few showers over the remainder. Partly cloudy in Perth tomorrow, showers in Adelaide, light rain for Melbourne, a windy day but 30 in Sydney and sunny and 27 in Brisbane. Bit showery over Hobart and 13 degrees at the moment, partly cloudy in Launceston, 12 and 12 right now in Devonport and partly cloudy. Not that I'm counting, Kim, but it's 18 days to the beginning of daylight saving, no S on saving, daylight saving time. Looking forward to it.
Definitely, me too. Thanks very much, Merv. That's your news for now. I'll be back later with updates. Thanks for joining us this evening. Good night.